Einar Tangen is CGTN's political and current affairs commentator. He discussed how China has become a global leader in the last year with my colleague, Roee Ruttenberg.
Well, I mean, a lot of it has been focused on trade between the U.S. and China, but in addition to that, you've seen a lot of security, peace and stability, trade issues. When you start talking about the SCO, China cooperating with Russia, extending the Belt and Road Initiative, increased trade along those countries, and then in terms of peace, the SCO battling extremism, trying to fend off, let us say, some rather awkward and bad feelings from the U.S., especially over Xinjiang and Hong Kong. So China has taken a very proactive view. There's still very much focused on climate change. Internally, it's a lot about poverty reduction. And I say that in a global sense because China is leading by example. And this is a very important part of walking the walk.
Do you think stepping more into the spotlight in 2020, China is ready for the additional responsibilities that comes with doing so?
Well, I mean, China is two different countries, though. The one that people see when they come to Shanghai, Shenzhen, Beijing is, a first world country. But once you get outside the cities, you understand that there's still a tremendous distance to go before China is ready to take on the same kind of role as the U.S. Remember, per capita income is about 1/4 to 1/5 of where the U.S. is. So China is doing what it can, but I think a lot of it has to do with the global situation. There's uncertainty that's been caused by these trade wars, the tariffs, not only for China, but the rest of the world. So at this point, China is trying to just create more certainty. And I think that's a very important part. One of the things people should be paying a lot of attention to is the rollout of this electronic currency that China is doing. It's going to enable them to do a lot of things, especially trade among the Belt and Road Initiatives, but also the RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership that they're spearheading.
According to a Gallup poll released in early 2019, global views of China's leadership outpaced the U.S. China had a 34% approval rating versus the U.S.'s 31%. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, you don't have to look very far. I mean, Donald Trump may be playing the card that some of the American public likes, but it is uncertainty. He creates chaos wherever he goes. And this is very difficult. He's alienated neighbors. He's alienated allies. He is pushing very hard on anybody who does not conform to his idea of America first. China, on the other hand, has been very, open-minded and handed. It has invested in infrastructure projects around the world. Sometimes it's criticized for doing that. But, the alternative is to do nothing. And China has chosen its path. It's trying to have more kind of friendship and openness. It's trying to protect the world order, which is based on this kind of fairness of trade. And it's getting a lot of blowback, especially in the international press. But it is continuing to go along that line.
China has really emerged as a leading voice in the global South. I say South despite its hemispheric positioning. What do you expect in the next decade going forward in terms of China's efforts in places like Africa and South America?
Well, a lot will depend on how the global economy goes. I mean, China is trying to do what I term WTO 2.0. And by that I mean, instead of just having pieces of paper that say that we can trade fairly and equally, China has put in the infrastructure that's necessary to reach a lot of these people who need to access these markets, not only for the things they want to buy, but also the things they want to sell. So a lot will depend on how the rest of the world reacts to it. Do they want a more inclusive, fair trade world that China kind of envisions, which is less political, does not have the kind of strings attached overtones of ideology, or do they like the world as it is, a kind of leadership under the United States, which insists that there can be only one cookie-cutter answer, liberal democratic capitalism, to all systems? There's also the issue of climate change. When you talk about the global south, I mean, I think that's more a state of mind these days, because you've seen disparities not only in income but in terms of development among countries. And I think disparity is going to be the chief topic as we go forward, as people look at climate change and economics.